Hi, I'm Molly. Welcome to my mod. This is Modcast. Katie and Megan, welcome to Modcast. I'm so excited to have you both here. You guys are two of the busiest people on campus. Can I just get an idea of what a week in the life looks like for you two?
That's a great question. I mean, I guess it kind of depends. My weeks these days are pretty front-loaded. It's kind of nice being a senior. I'm only in 4 classes, which is huge. I start studying for the LSAT. That's my big thing right now. But otherwise, just meetings, hanging out in the UGBC office.
Nice.
Eagles Nest is kind of my spot.
Yeah, I would say I'm also pretty lucky. I only have class Monday through Thursday, only taking 4 classes in a 1-credit seminar,
Nice.
thinking about resilience, super great, Monday afternoons. But I also work at the gym, so I do Mondays and Thursdays there, keep my Fridays free for meetings, and then, it's usually meetings in between. We have our leadership meetings on Wednesdays, Senate meetings on Tuesdays, one-on-ones and check-ins and coffee chats throughout the week, but I try to keep Friday through Sunday pretty much clear.
What programs have you found at BC that have made the biggest impact on your time? Like, what do you look forward to during the week?
What do I look forward to? Honestly, senior year, my word has been gratitude. I think that this summer being an orientation leader really made me remember why I fell in love with BC and just getting to meet so many new people and really be immersed here without okay, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to class. Now I could really take a step back and look at the trees outside the Plex and how lucky are we to be able to just play pickleball in the afternoon. It's really those little moments, I would say. Katie was being humble before. She had 6 UGBC meetings in one day earlier this week. And so that keeps us pretty busy, but I would say just those chats. This afternoon I was having coffee with an administrator just sitting on a bench, and I think that that's what's really cool about this opportunity is getting to know people in just a casual human way. It's not all about work all the time.
That's seriously what I'm going to miss the most after we graduate.
Yeah.
I'm not ready.
Coffee chats.
What about you, Katie?
I was going to say, I love the little coffee chats and getting to have those one-on-one moments. I met with a senator who's our transfer student representative last weekend. It's supposed to be a 30-minute coffee chat. We sat in the chocolate bar for 2 hours. And it's some of those moments where it's you end up talking about friends and the other things you're doing, and you start to realize when you take a step back, oh my God, I'm so grateful for this place and the people that are here. And I think some of the things that I've also been really enjoying recently is honestly getting to know my professors a little bit more and really getting to absorb that last year of just being an undergraduate, taking in all the information that you can get. I feel freshman year you're oh, I'm so afraid to go to office hours. I don't want to talk to my professor, but professors love to chat and they're all willing to get to know you. And I think a lot of the professors and administrators here too are super interested in just you as a person and what are you doing outside of the classroom. And that's something that I've been really grateful for this year, is just making some new connections and relationships too.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel sometimes it's honestly the professors you wouldn't initially think you have a great connection with, and it's I could sit in their office hours forever.
Yeah,
it's so awesome. Okay, so hearing about your busy schedule, we know that BC is known for attracting very ambitious students. Do you guys think that there's some sort of overachievement culture here? Do you put pressure on yourselves, or do you feel it's just kind of BC culture?
Yeah, I was actually having a conversation with our chief of staff, Ryan, about this a few weeks ago, back in the summertime, that everyone at BC thinks that they need to do everything. Like Megan said, you got to go to the gym, you got to get good grades, you have to do all your clubs, you have to volunteer on the weekends, you have to spend time with your friends, you still have to go out on Friday and Saturday nights, and it can be hard to balance everything. And I think one of the things that's really helped me is just being grateful to even have those opportunities and figuring out what are those 2 or 3 things that you really enjoy and putting all your time in that. And it's okay to also say no. We were talking a little bit about this before the podcast started, where I think people that in leadership positions are willing to say yes to a lot of things, but sometimes you don't have the bandwidth to say yes to everything. And you need to realize, what organizations and what things are most important to you and put your time in that. And I think obviously we've been really grateful to have UGBC and be able to put a lot of our time in that. And for me, I've spent a lot of time at campus recreation and also Jake's leadership program as the student director. And, we're trying to start a little bit more of a mentorship program there, just getting to know the sophomores a little bit more, figuring out what are their career interests, being, someone just that can answer what classes are good, what programs should you be doing, what should you be preparing for a job interview. So just trying to be a little bit more grateful for that stuff, and also, like I said, tell people that it's okay to not do everything. Yes. Figure out what you're most interested in.
There's only 24 hours in a day.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I feel that's where it comes from, is am I doing enough? That's always kind of the thought that's running in the back of my mind. And when I'm thinking logically, I'm like, enough, like this is too much. Like every single minute is scheduled, and like personal things in my calendar are in the green.
Yeah.
And like, you know, school stuff is blue, and I feel like that's just the culture here. I think this is probably the only place on earth where you have to apply to volunteer, you know, like, and it starts right as soon as you get here. You're in a community where everybody was the A student, was the student body president, the captain of the team, and then you're all together. And so I think that creates sometimes a competitiveness, but I would say overwhelmingly, at least for me, it's like within myself of like, am I doing enough? Am I working hard enough? And, you know, that can be really challenging sometimes because it makes it really hard to be present. But something that is on like the little whiteboard in my kitchen in Ruby right now is anxiety and gratitude can't exist at the same time. I guess it's like, I don't know, one of my science friends was saying like those two emotions are part of like the same part of your brain. And so I've been trying to do that of like, you know, when I was talking to the freshman class and Conti, I hate public speaking, so I was so nervous. But I was like, you know what, I get to do this. I don't have to do this. But those moments are sometimes few and far between when like you're running from this to the other thing.
Yeah, totally. Have there been any like campus resources or people in particular that help you when you feel maybe like I'm not doing enough or I'm not good enough or maybe I'm doing too much?
Yeah, totally. I would say for me, my freshman year, I went to University Counseling Services for the first time, and that was really helpful because it helped me kind of process my transition to college, things from high school, and just like get to know myself better. I'm very like pro therapy. I'm an applied psych major, so I think that like it's really useful to just have somebody to bounce ideas off of because my friends have their own thing. It's not like a competition of who has it the worst. Everybody's super busy. And so having people that you can go to outside, whether it's a professional like that or even just mentors. One of our advisors, Christine, I know I can just walk down to the hall into her office at any time. And it's always, how are you, Meghan, the person, not how are you in the role and what do we have to order for this event? It's like, what's going on? Tell me about your day. And through those conversations, I feel like I really have people to lean on in this community, which is needed when things get kind of tough and busy.
Yeah, absolutely. I also, freshman year, used University Counseling Services, and I think that is a really hard time freshman year. We were talking about it when we were working at Weeks of Welcome this year, and just freshman year, you don't know what you're about to walk into. There's a lot of things that are subject to change, friend groups, majors, the friends from home, and really like everything is kind of up in the air. And so I really needed someone to lean on and just talk to when I didn't really have an advisor or a mentor here. And I think now, reflecting upon my senior year, I know I have so many great trusted adults at this university. I think our UGBC advisors, Christine, Colleen, Abby, they're all been really great. Colleen especially, I think in the last year, seeing kind of our transition through different advising models and really kind of helping to shape our organization to where it is right now. I know that I can always go to her or catch her in the morning for a cup of coffee or a walk, and just if there's something that I need, she will make sure that I get that help. And I really think that goes without saying, like, you cannot wish for that relationship anymore at college. I think when you're not with your parents and your friends from home and having that comfort, to have someone that's trusted and just great friends is really amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Meghan, you kind of gave me a good segue when you said lean on. How do you guys lean on one another? You know, I know you're good friends, right?
Yeah.
But seriously, how do you guys keep kind of your friendship and work separate?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think it's really tough because we always, like, UGBC or other things, like, I call it work, but then I remember, like, I'm 21 years old and I'm a kid in a club, and this is like my friend that I get to do this with, and I'm so fortunate, and like to have Katie as a partner has been such a blessing. And in terms of leaning on each other, everybody's got a lot going on, and I know that, like, for me, some of my weaknesses are where Katie excels, and so that's like where she'll do the task. Or like, there's a meeting Thursday at 9 a.m. and, you know, I was going to go to the gym, but Katie has class, so I'm going to make that sacrifice. We're going to shift. We're going to pivot. I think that's just been, like, really helpful to communicate proactively about what's going on. And the friendship strengthens the work, I think, a lot of the time. When you can be super honest and upfront, you cut a lot of the middle stuff and you can just get right to it. But I also think it's harder, like, being in an organization and kind of managing peers, I guess you would call it. Like, sometimes it makes it harder to have a real conversation, but that's something that our advisors help us with and that we're constantly working towards, just being better communicators, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think Megan is a great person that if I need to call her at 10:30 at night to talk about something UGBC, I know she will answer the phone. And we're always, I feel like, just sending each other sporadic texts, whether it's like a joke or like an Instagram DM or like something that we actually need to talk about in UGBC. And I think that relationship is really great because, like we said, we're not taking every moment super seriously.
Yeah.
And yes, it's work, but we're also friends doing this together, working with other students, and we know the context of the situation is never really that serious, and so we're trying to just, you know, have a little bit more fun in the position this year, be more open to people, and I think I'm super grateful that you have taken on a really strong role in just like leading the organization, especially with the administrative stuff that sometimes can be super boring. You've been a really great person to kind of take on that task, and I've been able to really focus on the Senate, which is something that struggled with, I think, a little bit last year, is being able to balance all the responsibilities, and I think we have a really nice mix now with our Chief of Staff, Ryan, too, and just being able to have everyone focus on the areas that are most important to them and really get the work done.
Awesome. Girlhood has been kind of a trend for a while now, but in all seriousness, like, what does it mean to have two women leading UGBC and only having female advisors?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I don't really know, I feel like, a world without Meghan as our, like, lead organization person. I think she's done a really great job at bringing together the seriousness of UGBC and what the vision that we want it to be here at BC, but also helping people know, like, she's a cool person. She likes to hang out on the weekends. Like, you can go talk to her about anything, grab coffee. Like, she's great. And I think also understanding that, like, our advisors are now new to this position. This is, like, our first time we've had a female advisor in the time that we've been in UGBC, and I think it's great because they're both pretty young. They're in their 20s, and so not only can we, like, relate to them as kind of, like, older sisters and mentors and stuff, but we're also able to, you know, lean on them to get the work done. And I think we understand each other in ways that maybe other advisors and administrator relationships don't have on campus, just because of how close our dynamic is. And I'm super, super grateful for that. I don't think we'd be able to get as much work as we get done with really out the dynamic that we have.
Yeah, I think that, you know, it's fortunate and lucky that we were both, like, I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with, like, us being women. Like, I think it's really cool that, like, we got to be chosen and in these positions just because we're good at what we do and we love what we do, and, like, we're fueled totally by passion, and it's just, like, a special extra that, like, it's all the girls that get to lead this together. But it is tough sometimes, and, like, we talk about this, like, in different conversations surrounding women in leadership. I know for me last year, both professionally and personally, it was, like, a constant mental battle of, like, how am I being perceived? Like, do people like me? Am I too tough? Like, I have it together, but I also have emotions, but I don't want to be too much of anything. And so that sometimes is, like, a learning curve, but I think orientation really helped me. And there was a moment on our retreat, our UGBC retreat, that we were in the room at the Connor Center in Dover, and we were just giving a little bit of an introduction about our organization, and I kind of, like, teared up in front of everybody for a second, because I remembered one of our old presidents and having been in that room a couple years ago, and now someone else in that room will also be president someday, and just thinking about how far we've come and how far I've come in my leadership, and being able to kind of show that vulnerable side. Like, somebody came up to me after and she said, you know, I feel like that's really discouraged in leaders, like, kind of showing who you really are, and the way that you were able to do that, Megan, really makes me want to be better. And that was, like, all I needed to know, that being my authentic self as a leader is what's needed. Not everybody is going to love you all the time. Sometimes we have to be, like, executive decision makers, and it's not easy. But if you come with your values and your mission, I think it really makes all the difference in some of those tough moments.
Yeah, I was actually having a conversation with Christine, our advisor, the other day about showing up to every conversation as the same person. I think we've done a really great job of just being our true selves, and sometimes that is hard. Obviously, we're friends with a lot of the people that we work with in this organization, but just trying to be as true to our values and true to the people that we are, I think, has really helped a lot this year.
It's kind of a shame when people, like, mirror themselves too much when they're in a group of people, even, like, professional settings too, because, like, you don't want to lose that true sense of yourself, and I think that's why you guys are so good at what you do. And that's a lot of people struggle to do that. So it's really awesome to hear.
Working on it.
Meghan, I know you're quite the Swiftie, so I'm going to ask in the spirit of the best day, for you guys, what has been the best day ever from your BC experience so far?
I love that question. Oh my gosh. I wasn't always a Swiftie, but then Midnights changed it for me.
I also got converted during
right?
Midnights.
I'm just always in the office. You walk in and I'm like playing off my computer. Oh, I remember one. It was during finals, sophomore spring, and my friends and I had Chipotle on the grass in like the Baldwin's backyard area by the Pine Tree Preserve, and like we were all no makeup, sweatshirts, sweatpants, like had crawled out of the McGuinn study room that we were in. No one take my spot. That's my spot. But we were just having dinner, and at that point it really had felt like our group of friends had like finally come together, and the constellation of all these people, like we finally felt that click. And yes, it was a tough day, but being able to just like take it all off with each other and talk about like this final is so tough, but looking forward to the summer and the plans that we had, that was just a really special day. And I look back at those pictures all the time.
Yeah, it's honestly like what you said in like your weekly schedule. It's not the big things. It's like the little
oh my
coffee
gosh.
chit chats. It's the unexpected things that I think I'm gonna like cherish and
the little moments.
Post-grad. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, seriously. I was gonna say I think one of my favorite days at BC was probably the last day of classes last semester. We do mod stock every year. Obviously, we have a concert on campus, and I wasn't anticipating on going to the concert originally. I was like, it's raining outside, it's kind of late, I don't really want to go. But my guy friends were like, no, come on, it's one of our last times, it should be fun. And so Molly I ended up running into, actually, and Sahithi, a few other people in UGBC, and it was just, we ended up running into a bunch of different people and hanging out with a group that I think I would have never really hung out with before. And it was one of those like spur of the moment decisions, let's just go and see what's out there. And it was really, really fun. Neon Trees was amazing in person, and like
good.
We were just having the best time. It was raining during the concert. We have like the best videos of us just like dancing and being silly, and I think it's one of those moments where you weren't expecting to have a good time, and it really is like, yeah, these are my friends, this is my place, I made the right choices.
So if you're a freshman and you're starting all over again, do you think you would change anything? And if you would change anything, what would you change?
Wow. That's hard. It's hard now, and just like on the last question briefly, like as a senior not to like lastify everything. I think I made up like a fake word, but like, this is the last hot dog that I'm gonna have in Alumni Stadium. Like it's so hard not to do that, but like we're very conscious of the fact that like this is fleeting, and sort of wanting to like make the most of everything. And to think back to freshman year, would I change anything? I don't think so, because if I changed something, then it would mean that I would have to subtract something that I did do, and something that I always talk about my mom when we're like having these conversations. She had this sign in our kitchen. It said, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And I think that even those so-called mistakes that I made and that B- from brain, mind, and behavior, like worse things have happened, and those are the moments that have really made me who I am now. I don't think I would change anything. I think maybe, yeah, I wouldn't. What about you?
Yeah, I switched my major after freshman year.
A million times.
I was neuroscience freshman year, and I only switched my major once to economics.
Clear the record.
Only switched it once. But I think if I knew what I wanted to do going into school, that would have been a little bit better. I probably would have wanted to be in the Carroll School, doing like leadership and management or ops management, something like that. I'm managing for social impact. That's my minor right now, and I love those classes. So that might have been me in another life. But like Meghan said, if I didn't make the decisions that I did when I did, I wouldn't have experienced all the things that I have now. And so I'm one of the firmest believers in like everything happens for a reason. So totally. I think I needed to fail freshman year and like experience those really hard classes and get my natural science core out of the way. Yeah, so never have to do it again. But I think like having those experiences of just like, okay, this is really hard. And it's not even that I did terrible in my classes. I was just like, this is not something that I'm passionate about. And if I'm going to force myself to do this for 10 years, I think when you're 18, 19 years old and having to make like a really big life decision like that, you're not thinking about it in that way in high school, and then you're put in college, and suddenly in 6 months you're thinking about your career and the next 10 years of your life. And so that was like a really big change for me. But yeah, I don't think I would have changed it because, like I said, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So
yeah. That's something I've been talking to a lot of like freshmen about too, is in college, you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. And, like, have you guys ever heard of the ostrich effect?
No. Explain that.
It's basically this idea that, like an ostrich with, like, the long neck, like, you think to yourself, like, I'm going to go to med school. And I think that's a lot of people's experience. And you take organic chemistry, and you're like, no, but, like, I want to go to med school. And you just keep digging deeper and deeper. As soon as you're not loving it, as soon as you're not passionate, and, like, you see something in the corner of your eye, like, I think that might serve me better, make the switch. Like, these are the years to do that and to make those mistakes. I feel like there's so much pressure with, like, you open LinkedIn and people are pleased to announce that they're, like, the new CEO of whatever. And it's like, just do what you love, do what you want to do. And it's easy for me to say right now, I'm still working on it, but, like, there's no reason to keep going down a road that isn't serving you.
Yeah, it's kind of the idea of, like, comparison is, like, the theft of joy. Is
Mm-hmm.
that saying? You can't go on LinkedIn without being like, oh, God, everyone has their stuff figured out, and I don't, and I'm so behind. Like, how do you manage those feelings? Because they're very real.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever stopped.
That's why I'm looking at you.
I don't know if I actually ever stopped doing that, but I think it's, like, the mindset in which I'm doing it. I know that I'm not going to be X person, but what traits am I looking at in this person that maybe I want to be better at? And I think framing your mindset about what you want to pick up from other people, and I think that goes into, who do you want to surround yourself with? What friends do you want to have? What relationships do you want to have? What classes do you want to take? What job opportunities do you want to go after? It really does matter what information and even, like, the media that you're consuming. And so I think just being able to understand that you might not be these people, but there are certain things that you can learn from the people around you and the information that you're picking up on that can be beneficial. And so that's, I think, the best way that I've started to try to handle it.
Yeah, or shifting it into, like, motivation. I don't know. I think it's really important to realize, and, like, I don't know, in high school you're all applying to college, and that's, like, the steps are very, like, predetermined for you, but now it's, like, my big thing is applying to grad school. Somebody else's big thing is, like, they already have a job, but they've got something going on at home right now. Like, everybody's on a different trajectory and has a different kind of thing going on. And so being able to just, like, at least in my friend group, like, lift each other up through that has been really important. And, like, there's going to be a Thursday where I get to go out and have a great time. And then next Thursday, I'm in the library till midnight because I have a test the next day. And I think that that's what's cool about this environment is, like, surrounded by these people. Everyone gets it because we're all doing the same thing, but in different ways and on different timelines, and just being able to, like, stay grounded in that and focus on, like, I'm in my lane, I'm supporting the people around me, everyone's on a different path has been kind of grounding.
Yeah, I think one of, like, the best analogies, as many people know, I love to lift weights. I'm a power lifter, and so I follow a lot of people on Instagram that are so much better than me at powerlifting, and I don't follow them because I'm, like, jealous or mad, but it's because I can learn things from their form or their technique, and I think that's, like, how I choose to surround myself with people and relationships and stuff. I want to be around people that are better than me so that I can learn things from them and, pick up on those good traits. And so, like you said, we all kind of understand that we're all at that top level here, and so understanding that you can't be at the top level every single time. Even those people that you see on Instagram and LinkedIn have bad days and bad weeks and bad months, and so just giving yourself a little bit of grace and understanding that life has a lot of nuances.
Yeah. Now that we're in the midst of election season, could you touch upon what UGBC is doing to engage students?
Totally. So something that we've been partnering with the Division of Student Affairs on is just encouraging campus-wide civic engagement. It's really important that young people get out to vote. For a lot of people, this is their first presidential election or first time voting in general. And so being able to have little tote bags that say I voted and have the UGBC logo on them, things like that. There's a lot going on campus-wide with different centers and offices. And so being able to put those resources together and make sure that students know what's going on so that they can go and listen and have their voices be heard, I think is really important in a time like this for a university to tell the broader community, hey, these are issues that we care about. We want to empower you to learn a little bit and get out there and make your voice heard.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say a few weeks ago when the debate happened, the Division of Student Affairs did Debate Night Done Right, where they had some pizzas for people that registered their parties, and basically they sent some pictures over, sent some resources, and I think stuff like that is what they're hoping to foster in the future is more, student discourse about it. And I know the BAIC is doing an event, I think in October, talking about second-class citizenship and different identities in the voting space. And so that idea was kind of talked about in UGBC with a few of our groups, and I think it's great that different centers and groups on campus are putting together the resources and time to have these discussions on campus, and we'll absolutely be promoting them through our newsletters, having senators and different division members be there. So yeah, really looking forward to just making sure we're all engaged in this election season.
We've been hearing set the world aflame since we stepped foot on campus.
We held the banner at convocation that said set the world aflame.
How do you guys see yourself living this out after we graduate?
I like that question a lot. Something that we talked about, I keep bringing up orientation, but it was like the best experience ever. Love set the world aflame. We've also reframed it. Wells Crowther, he went back up the stairs that day, and that he saved many, many people. And it's like, how do we go back up the stairs? And maybe it's not something that is of that magnitude, of course not, but just being able to, go on an APA trip and immerse myself and be with people who are part of the same human family, but just from a different background in rural Virginia, that's really special. And it's a challenge, I think, for seniors to think about how do we carry these special BC moments and being people for others and, really catalyzing growth and good things from the people around us after graduation. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I have a plan of, I guess I'm going to go to law school in the next 5 years. This is like the plan. But there's going to be little moments in there that I think those make all the difference, like in relationships. And, when you're called on, when something goes wrong, what do you do? And I think that for Wells, in that moment, that was something that was so in him because of who he was and because of his time at Boston College. And I think that we all have a little bit of that special stuff now to be able to carry BC with us wherever we go.
Yeah, no, I think that's, once again, a really great question. I'm taking a class next semester called The Discerning Pilgrimage with Father Casey and Colleen Dallavelle, and it's a class thinking about what are you going to do after your time at BC? How is BC going to prepare you to be a good citizen? And I think I'm super interested to have that kind of reflection with other people that are going through the same thing, because like Megan said, when you're at BC, you have a lot of special moments. You have a lot of time to reflect and be surrounded by great people. And then you go out into the world. And for me, I'm going to be working in consulting next year. So it's kind of hard to maybe see where those moments of setting the world aflame will be. But one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot more recently is the possibility of going to grad school later on and, potentially using the skills that I have fostered in my time here for more than I think you can do in just your typical 9 to 5. And so that is to be determined at a later date, but it is definitely something that I've been thinking more about. And I think one of the really nice things about BC is you're being told pretty much every single day that you can do whatever you want to do and that, whatever you put your mind to, you can go after it. And I think everybody hears the word imposter syndrome, and we all deal with it a lot. And I think for me, I dealt with it a lot after switching my major. I was like, well, I can't go to med school. I'm so dumb. Like, there's nothing after me. And surprise, surprise, there's actually a lot of other skills that exist outside of just being able to go to med school. And so being able to just kind of reframe your mindset and understand that everybody's on their own path, everybody's on their own timeline. And I think setting the world aflame can come at a lot of different times. My sister, she graduated from BC in 2019 and did like the typical investment banking, Goldman Sachs, working on Wall Street, and she didn't like it. It didn't work out for her after 7 months, and she felt like, oh my God, my life is over, this isn't working out for me. And now, she's working at a different firm in Boston doing private equity, doing much better than maybe she could have ever imagined if she had just stayed in that position on Wall Street. And so I think it's trusting your gut a little bit that you can't always predict what's going to happen, but the right opportunities will come out for you. And we're BC students, we know how to communicate, we know how to make relationships, and I think we also know how to show a willingness to learn, and that's really what people are looking for and will help make a change.
Yeah, totally. I think it's less of that game plan of like, I'm going to this school and I'm going to get this job. It's more about character. Like, when we're talking about those small moments with people, like, that's how you guys are going to set the world aflame. From this conversation, it's those little moments and the way you share your character with others and uplift like one another. Now, speaking of setting the world aflame, we're going to end with some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Yikes. Let's go.
Hold on.
Ready?
Let's hit it.
3 things in your Trader Joe's cart.
Scandinavian swimmers. Anything like chicken tikka masala, butter chicken, those are great. and then some sort of produce. I feel like their like apples have been really good recently.
Okay.
I would say like the mandarin orange chicken. Me and my roommate always alternate who is gonna make it that week, but that's like a staple. Chicken. I'm learning how to make chicken. And what else? A sweet potato. A sweet potato.
Last meal, but it's only from BC Dining.
Oh wow.
Mac and cheese station.
Flat top burger.
That is crazy.
That's a crazy
Is that crazy?
take.
That's like my
Yes.
okay. Anyway.
If you could switch your major right now, if you had to be another major, what major would you be?
Management. I already said that earlier. I would probably do that.
History. Oh my gosh, history.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I have to like. I've heard the history department at BC is like amazing. So
They
I'll have to
are
figure
amazing.
it. Yeah, senior spring. I gotta take one. Bucket list.
Okay. Go-to study spot on campus.
I've been liking 245 Beacon recently, Schiller.
I'm O'Neill 5. You're
Really?
studying or you're not?
Favorite song right now?
So long, London.
I've been listening to a lot of Frank Sinatra recently.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
One song in particular?
I'm just going to go with New York. Like
Okay.
New York. You know, it's great.
Olivia Rodrigo, Chappell Roan, or Sabrina Carpenter?
Olivia. No skips on that album.
Ooh, I've been listening to a lot of Sabrina Carpenter recently. I love her new album. Taste is so good.
I'm Chappell. This is a
Wow,
good
look at
balance
this.
in this
Okay,
room.
Chapel is great, but like, here's my thing about
Trendy.
her. I feel like I've already kind of listened to all her music.
Okay, last one. What is one word to describe your BC experience? Put a bow on top.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
Blessed.
Blessed. Okay, I love it. Okay, well, thank you guys.
Thank
so
you
much.
so
Thank you
much.
so
This was
much.
a fun
First
Friday.
ever. Thank you for coming on Modcast, and see you soon.
Yeah,
See you in
we'll
the
see you
office.
soon.